Can dead men save this dying franchise? Let's find out. Hello Fanatics, I'm Dylan Phillips, and this is the Film Fanatic Review bringing you Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, starring Johnny Depp, Geoffrey Rush, and Javier Bardem. First, we'll tell you our initial thoughts and what the movie is about. Then we'll move on to our spoiler-free likes and dislikes. We'll finish up with our spoiler-heavy thoughts on this film and our final word. Before we start off, I'm going to say to stay to the end of this one because there is in fact a post-credit scene. Overall, this isn't the worst Pirates movie we've had, so there's that. I think that this one falls between 2 and 3 or maybe 3 and 4 for me. I was so back and forth with everything, so let's talk about it. Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales follows the continuing adventures of Captain Jack Sparrow as he searches for the trident of Poseidon. For what I liked about this film, I thought it was a fun swashbuckling adventure. It had heart, it had charm, it had great action sequences, and it was visually stunning through and through. The acting in this film is pretty enjoyable. Johnny Depp doesn't go too overboard with his performance, but the two standouts to me are Javier Bardem and Geoffrey Rush. Javier does occasionally overact in this movie, and he grits his teeth a little bit, kind of like how I said Nebula did in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. However, for the majority of the movie, he's quite a menacing villain, and probably the best one we've seen since Davy Jones. Meanwhile, the one who stole the show to me was definitely Barbossa. The story in this movie is definitely his, and to me, he's always been my favorite character in the Pirates franchise. To see what they did with him in this movie was very satisfying. The young couple in this film of Henry and Karina is definitely not Will and Elizabeth. However, they are monumentally better than the previous couple. And it somewhat recaptures the magic of not only the first film, but of the first trilogy, as it gives some great closure to some memorable and beloved characters. As for what I disliked, I will say that I wasn't a big fan of the story. As much as it was great in its simplistic view, as you started to look at the more complex stuff, it started to get a little bit hazy. For starters, I wasn't a big fan of the fact that there was absolutely no stakes going on for any characters, and so there was no real sense of danger or threat for them, so I didn't really invest as much as I could have. On top of that, there were a lot of unneeded and unnecessary scenes throughout the movie that could have condensed the story a lot. And the redcoats in this film were very underwhelming. In most of the previous films, you typically had a big redcoat nemesis, like Norrington or Beckett, but in this film, you didn't really have one. In fact, the biggest one was Faramir from Lord of the Rings, and even he in this movie wasn't that menacing. While Jack isn't necessarily over the top in this film, he still feels like a caricature of himself. In the first film, he only appeared as a bumbling idiot, but then still knew how to get out of any situation. However, in this movie, it just feels like every single situation he's in, he just gets out of in sheer dumb luck, and it became more of less Captain Jack and more Jar Jar. And finally, the backstory and lore that this franchise has set up definitely was destroyed by the continuity in this movie, and I'll explain that more in the spoiler section. And that's where I'll end our spoiler-free thoughts on this film. If you want to hear our final word or rating of this film, pause now and click the link in the description, because now it's time for spoilers. First off, I was really excited to actually get some closure on the Will and Elizabeth storyline and to see that they were actually happy at the end. It was one of the few film couples that I grew up with and was terribly invested in my childhood, so to see that definitely brought a tear to my eye. I loved what they did with Barbossa, despite the fact that it was blatantly obvious that Karina was his daughter, and I was very sad to see him die. Now, onto the elephant in the room, the continuity issues with these movies, particularly this one in comparison to the others. What I'm going to talk about specifically is the compass and the curses. So first off, the compass. So in these movies, the compass is supposed to help Jack find whatever he desires most. And in this specific movie, they say that if Jack loses the compass or hands it off to somebody else, that the the Captain Salazar and his crew are going to be freed of their curse, and then they're going to hunt him. Well, in Dead Men Tell No Tales, Jack loses or gives the compass to any number of people. I remember Beckett having it, I'm pretty sure Will had it, Elizabeth had it, heck, Barbossa probably had it for a little bit, Gibbs. So there's a lot of characters that it switched hands to, and yet Salazar was never released from his curse, so it seems a little bit odd. On top of that, they say that the compass in this movie was given to him by his captain while he was dying in the middle of this fight between Salazar and their ship, yet in the previous movies, it's said that he got it from the sea goddess Calypso, and it's explained in the previous movies like that. So again, continuity there. In terms of the curses, though, they talk about in this movie that Poseidon's trident will break any curse, and that's why Henry is so determined to go and get it to free his father. Now, his father was cursed to the Dutchman when they cut out his heart while he was dying, but if he was dying already, and they had to cut his heart out, if the curse was lifted, wouldn't he just be a corpse with no heart? And how far do these curses go back? I mean, Jack and Barbossa were stabbed numerous times when they were cursed by the Aztec gold, so if they had been stabbed at those points, would they not be able to come back? Would their wounds all of a sudden come back and kill them? Any number of characters. Same with Davy Jones at the end. They show that he's barnacled and all squid-like, and yet if the curse was lifted, wouldn't he also not have a curse on him, and he'd just be a regular-looking human pirate? Unfortunately, these movies don't really focus on their continuity too much, but at the same time, does it really matter when you go into a movie and don't really care about huge character development or huge dramatic moments, and you're just going in for a swashbuckling adventure? So, with the thoughts heard, here's our final word. Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man Tell No Tales is a fun summer swashbuckling adventure. Although it gives glimpses of the original pirates' magic, the story and pacing show us that dead men do tell tales, and they certainly aren't the best at it. This film was great if you're a huge Pirates fan, but at the same time it seems very gimmicky, and it's hard to invest in a story with such awkward pacing. So I'm going to give Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man Tell No Tales a 6. Thanks everybody for watching our review. Are you planning on seeing the 5th Pirates movie? Or if you've already seen it, do you have something to add? What did you think of how the story was done? Let us know in the comments below. I'm Dylan Phillips, and this has been the Film Fanatic Review. If you liked this video and you want to see more, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Check out our latest If You Liked a Video, where we recommend movies similar to the film King Arthur: Legend of the Sword. Don't forget to follow us on our social media. Until next time, Fanatics, keep it real.